Hey everyone, so we will continue our lecture on chapter 19, the heart. I will share my screen. Okay, last time we stopped here. We already talked about the locations of the heart, the size of the heart, and also the pericardium, the sac of the heart, the chambers of the heart, which is it has four chambers, two atria on the top and two ventricles at the bottom. And just remember the function of the atria, the left and right atrium, are for receiving the blood, while the real pumping of the blood is actually coming from the ventricle chambers. Now we're gonna look at the structure of the chamber. You will actually see this tomorrow during the lab. You will dissect the the heart, and then we'll find out the four chamber, including these structures that's located in the chamber. And again, if you compare, okay, the left side and the right side of the heart, you should be able to see by just looking at the muscle, the myocardium of the heart. Look at this. If you compare this side over here, okay, so the muscle over here, this muscle is very thick compared to the muscle on the other side over here. Okay, it's a little bit or very thin. And from this, you should be able to guess which one is the left chamber, the left ventricle, and which one is the right ventricle. Just remember, the left ventricle pump the blood to the whole body. It means that it will require a thicker muscle, okay, to have more powerful contraction. While on the other side, over here, okay, the right side, the right ventricle, it has thinner muscle because this ventricle just pumping the blood to the lungs. And remember, the lung is just next to the heart. Therefore, this chamber does not require thicker muscle. Okay, so this one's gonna be left ventricle. This one's gonna be right ventricle. Now, on the top of the left ventricle will be the right atrium. Okay, and the top of the right, I'm sorry, the top of the left ventricle will be left atrium. On the top of the right ventricle will be right atrium. Okay, now we're gonna look at the additional structure. Okay, if you see over here, this is actually the valve that that connect the atrium with the ventricle. Okay, so there are actually four valves or four doors or windows, okay, that connect the atrium with ventricle and then ventricle with the blood vessel. If you see here on the right, on the left side, okay, there is a door over here, which is a valve, okay? That one that's located on the left side between left atrium and left ventricle. The valve is called the bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve because it has two cups, okay? And it is also known as a mitral or mitral valve. So this is between left atrium and left ventricle. So this valve over here. On the right side, there is also valve over here. Okay. And this valve is called the tricuspid valve because it has three cups. Therefore, it's called the tricuspid. Okay, that's the valve between right atrium and right ventricle. And the valve that connect the left ventricle, okay, with the aorta over here is called the aortic valve. Okay, it's called the aortic valve. And the one that connect the right ventricle with the pulmonary trunk, it is called the pulmonary valve. Okay, so it actually will bring the blood to the lung. This one will bring the blood to the whole body. So these are the structure inside the heart. And look at this one over here. You see this line or this structure. This structure is called the chorda tendinae, which is the structure that strengthens the valve. Okay, so the valve can be open and closed because of this structure. And there is also muscle, special muscles that's located following this chordae tendinae. Okay, so this is structure that present in the heart chamber. Again, you will see this structure tomorrow during the lab activity. Now, this is just illustrations, the four valve of the heart. Okay, the heart valve, there are four of them. The one that's located between the right, okay, this is the right side, it has three, therefore we call it tricuspid valve. It has one, two, three, okay, kind of have three opening or cups. This is on the right side. This is called the tricuspid valve, which is connecting the right atrium and the right ventricle below it, below this valve. On the other side, you see only two cups over here. Okay, this one is called the bicuspid valve, or also called the mitral valve. Eh? This is located on the left, left atrium, okay, between the left atrium and the left ventricle below it. So this the uh, bicuspid valve. Again, you will see this tomorrow during dissection. Now look at this. This is from the left side, the left ventricle, and this is the aorta. Aorta is the biggest blood vessel that we have. The one that carry the blood to the whole body is aorta. Therefore, the valve between the left ventricle and aorta is called the aortic valve. Aortic valve. There is another valve over here that connecting the right ventricle with the pulmonary trunk. So this vessel over here is called the pulmonary trunk. This is the one that bring the blood to the lungs, left and right. It will branching into left and right. So this valve over here, because between right ventricle and pulmonary trunk, the name is pulmonary valve. Okay, so these are the four valves that's located in the heart. Now, this is just illustration also what happens during the uh, movement of the blood from the arteria, okay, from the aorta, I mean from the uh, left, okay, so this one is atria, right? From the atrium, this is the right side, right atrium, and this is the left side, left atrium, okay? When the blood is going down to the ventricles, Okay, from the right atrium to right ventricle, left atrium to the left ventricle, you see this valve is open. They open. So the blood can flowing down from atria to the ventricle. And during that time, if the tricuspid and bicuspid valve open, these two valves will be closed. Okay, the aortic valve and the pulmonary valve will be closed. When this one is open, yeah, during the pumping of the blood from the ventricle, these two valves will be open, the aortic and pulmonary valve, and the two over here, the tricuspid and bicuspid valve will be closed. So they open and close. Okay. Alternatively, the top two will open together, and then the bottom two will also open together. So when they open, it will open together. This one will open together. When they close, they will close together. This one will close together. Okay, so this the way the blood will be flowing, okay, from atrium to the ventricles, and then from ventricles to the whole body or to the lungs using this four valve. Look at this one. So the two top over here, the tricuspid and bicuspid is closed. Why it is closed? Because the aortic and pulmonary valve are open. So when it is open, the top will be closing. And this is the time when the blood is actually pumped from the ventricles to the whole body and also to the lungs. Now, the one that pump the blood to the whole body, which is from the left side, from the left ventricles, will go to this, to this aorta. Okay, so aorta is the biggest blood vessel, okay, the biggest artery that coming out from the left ventricle. And remember, there will be valve over here. It's called the aortic valve. Now, as soon as the blood flowing into the aorta, it's actually branching. There is a small branch over here on the right and on the left. This is the artery that will bring the blood for the heart muscle, for the myocardium. Remember, myocardium always perform contraction, never stop. Since you were born, this muscle pumping the blood. Therefore, it's require a lot of oxygen. It's require a lot of blood that go to this muscle. Okay, that one is taken from the aorta, branching into this, and circulate inside this muscle. That circulation is called the coronary circulation. Okay, so coronary circulation is circulation of blood into the muscle of the heart, the myocardium. It is actually the first artery or the first circulation that receive a very rich, fresh blood from the aorta. After that, the aorta will be branched into three, okay, over here on the top. Okay, this one will bring the oxygenated blood or the rich blood to the brain, okay, and also to the arm, okay, to our arms. So this is coming from this branching. So there will be arteries over here. We're gonna learn these arteries on chapter 20. Okay. And then this aorta will continue going down, bring the blood into all the organ that we have in our body, okay, including the kidney, liver, uh, stomach, spleens, pancreas. So all of them will receive the blood that's going down over here, okay? the aorta that going down. It's called the descending aorta. So this is how, okay, again, the blood will be pumped from the left side, which is the left ventricle, go to the aorta, then it will be delivered to the whole organs in our body. Okay, this is just showing us there's a problem with this person. So this is taken from the heart scan. As you see over here, there is the the vessel over here is being small, because it's actually constricted and blocked by cholesterol or by lipids. Okay, so this is what we call the vascular disease, okay, cardioarticular disease, CAD. That's happening in the blood vessel or the artery that go to the heart muscle. It will make the heart muscle stop pumping the blood, and then that person will have the heart attack. So this condition is called the atherosclerosis, which is the blockage of the circulation by mostly lipids molecules such as cholesterol. They usually have to have a bypass surgery in order to replace these blocked arteries. Now, this is the muscle of the heart, which is called the myocardium, or also we know this is as a cardiac muscle. And remember, cardiac muscle is cylindrical muscle, okay, cylindrical muscle, shorter than the skeletal muscle, only have one nucleus per cell. It is also branching. So this is a branching muscle. And there is a spatial connection between cell in this cardiac muscle that has hole, that make the connection between cytoplasm of one cardiac muscle to the cytoplasm or of the next cardiac muscle. And this one is called the gap junction. So the connection between one cardiac muscle to the next cardiac muscle using this gap junction, it will allow the movement of cytoplasm between the cell, and of course, it will allow the movement of electricity, conduction from one muscle to another muscle. So that's the reason why the cardiac muscle, when it is contracted, the whole muscle will perform the contraction because of this gap junction that allow the conduction between the muscles of the heart. Now, the cardiac muscle contraction is very special because the starting point over here is actually not controlled by our brain. So the heart muscle, it will start contraction by itself. It's called the autorhythmic fiber or muscle. It will start its contraction by itself. In the start from this area is called the sinoatrial node or SA node. And this is also known as a pacemaker. So pacemaker. Someone that have problem with this sinoatrial node, they usually using the artificial pacemaker, using the battery to start the contractions of the heart. Okay, so this is the start of the muscle contraction is actually coming from the muscle, the cardiac muscle that's located on the right atrium. So this is special muscle in the right atrium that will start contraction. And that group of muscle is called the SA node or the pacemaker. From here, then the conduction, the electricity, will spread to the whole atria muscle, right and left. Okay, so it will go to this anterior internodal. It will spread into the whole muscle of the atrium, right and left, eh, it will cause the contractions of the atrium. When the atrium contracted, what happened? It will push the blood down, okay, from the atrium to the ventricle, from the right atrium to the right ventricle, from the left atrium to the left ventricle. So this contraction is spread from this SA node, go to the anterior internodal, and then spread to the whole atrial cardiac muscle. And then from here, okay, the electricity will go to the place is called the atrioventricular node. This is located between atrium and the ventricle. Over here, the electricity cannot stop for a while, about 100 milliseconds, and it will actually give the time for the atrium to fill, to flow the blood from atrium, the whole blood, all the blood will be flowing down, because this uh, ventricle muscle does not receive the innervation yet. It does not receive the electricity yet. So it's still relaxed. So therefore the blood can go and fill this space with that, kind of 100 millisecond. After that, what happens? Okay, the electricity will spread to this area. It's called the atrioventricular bundle. And then we'll go to the branch, atrioventricular branch, and then go to the Purkinje or Purkinje branch, and then finally spread into the whole ventricle muscle. Okay, go to the Purkinje fibers over here, and then starting from there, the whole muscle of the ventricle will contract. And this is the time when they push the blood into the aorta, if it is coming from the left side, going here. If it is coming from the right side, will go to the pulmonary trunk, go to the lungs. Okay, so this is how this electricity or conduction or contraction start in the heart muscle. Again, this is auto-rhythmic contraction. It start by itself, starting from the SA node. Now, how about innervation of the brain? The brain can control the heart, but it is only for making faster or slower, not for starting the contraction itself. Okay, this is kind of the cycle of this contraction. Again, start from here. This is SA node. So SA node send the impulses, okay, to the node over here, internodular node, and then spread it to the whole muscle of the atria, and then it will push the blood down. Okay, the uh, ventricle muscle is not contracted yet because the electricity will stop a little bit here. And finally, this is called the atrioventricular node. Go to the branch over here, okay? And then go to the Purkinje. And then finally, what happened? When the blood is ready in this ventricle, the muscles of the ventricle will contract, will push the blood, okay, to the whole body or to the lungs. And then after that, it will, relax again and start contraction again from here. It's just cycling like that. Okay, so there are these stages of contractions of the blood, of the heart muscle. Again, it's always start from the SA node, spread to the atrial muscle, and go to the ventricle muscle until the blood is pumped. This is what we call the cardiac conduction cycle. Now, what happened during that? Okay, so we actually can measure this with called the EKG, electrocardiograph. We measuring what we measuring. Actually, we measuring the ions. Okay, during the first stage, the sodium ion or the sodium channel will be open. Therefore, we can see increase of sodium concentration. After that, the one that will be open is calcium channel. It will show us the increase of calcium. Okay. After that, the potassium channel open, it's called the repolarization. It will decrease, okay? It will relax the muscle. And during that time, the potassium level will be increasing. So if we use this, okay, we're gonna see this muscle contraction of the cardiac muscle. Again, this is depolarization. Over here, depolarization of sodium. And then this one is depolarization of calcium. And calcium increase, it stay for a while, for about 300 seconds or 200 seconds over here. It is a long period of time actually for muscle contraction. Okay, so during that one, this is actually ventricle will be contract, will press the blood, will press the heart, and will pump the blood. During that condition, this muscle will not take any more uh, nerve or impulses, conduction. Therefore, this is area what we call the refractory period, the period when they cannot receive any more uh, conduction, or if they receive conduction, there will be no action at all. Okay, so this is a refractory period. And then relaxation over here when the potassium channel open. When we compare between skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle contraction, you're going to see the difference over here. In the skeletal muscle, okay, the contraction is really fast within several seconds, less than 100 seconds. But if you see the cardiac muscle contraction, it take a longer contraction over here. So one contraction is required about 200 to 300 seconds. Over here is maybe only around 70 seconds. Okay, so contractions of the heart muscle, it take longer because it need time to push the blood, okay, to empty the ventricle chamber. Okay. This is location when when we measure the electrocardiograph, uh, the heart contraction. Okay, there are several places to put the electrodes for measuring that contraction. And this is the result that will be sent into the graph. So you're gonna see this graph. If you see over here, okay, so one cycle is actually start from here until here. Okay, so this is one cycle, which is about 0.8 second. This is not even 1 second. That's one complete cycle of contraction, only 1.8 second. If we see that 1.8 second, so which is on this bottom graph, we're gonna be here. Okay, from here to here, this is one complete cycle, 0.8 second. You're gonna see three peak over here. Okay, the first one over here, the first peak is actually called the P wave. This is actually telling us that the sodium level is increased because the sodium channel is open. So this is the depolarization of sodium ions. Here is very high peak over here. It's called the QRS peak. This is telling us actually this is when the calcium channel open, depolarization of calcium. So calcium level will be increased so much. This is when the ventricles actually contracted. After that, of course, it's going to be relaxation, repolarization. where the potassium channel open, then you're gonna see the T wave over here. It is actually telling us that the potassium ion is present. So there are three peak during this measurement. Okay, the P wave telling us the sodium level, the QRS, okay, it is telling us the calcium level, and the T wave telling us the potassium level. And it take 0.8 second per one cycle. Okay, so this is yeah the same cycle over here with these different measurements on the graph. Okay, telling you when is the stage of this cycle. Okay, so this is some abnormality that you sometimes, if someone have abnormality, it will showing up in this EKG. And this one telling us there is a block on some channel, or circulation. And then this is slow. As we see, this one is a slower uh, contraction. Okay. This one is atrial fibrillation, which is telling us higher contraction, but there is a gap over here. It's not really smooth. Okay, graph and telling us contraction is fast, but sometimes there is a slow contraction between it. And this is tachycardia. If you see this one, it's actually really fast heart rate. Okay, abnormal heart rate is very fast. This is telling us a fast heart rate, but it's not that forceful. This is ventricular fibrillation. And this is very slow contraction. It's kind of bradycardia over here, which is the contraction is very, very slow. This is the equipment that you should use for uh, defibrillators, okay, to help people with some abnormality with their heart muscle contraction. Okay. Now, again, this is overview of the cardiac cycle. On this side over here, this is when the ventricle is contracting. This is when the blood is pumped from the ventricle. This is usually what we call as a systole. Systole. This is the strongest contractions of the heart muscle during systole. Usually, if we measure it, maybe around 120. Okay, the pressure is around 120. On the other side over here, this is mostly the relaxation of the ventricle, but still there is a contraction of atrium. So atrium is contracted, but the ventricle is relaxed. And this is what we call the diastole. Okay, so diastole, uh, you still have the pressure over here, usually around maybe 80. The pressure is around 80. Why is pressure? Because you see this pressure on the atrium. So atrium actually contracted at that time. Okay? So usually the blood pressure is measured with systole and diastole pressure. So usually, normally 120 over 80, for example. Okay, so this is telling us this is a systole and this is the diastole. Again, this is the normal graph that coming from EKG. This is one cycle from here to here is about 0.8 second. That's the normal cycle. It consists of the atrial systole, eh, and this atrial systole is actually ventricle diastole. So this is actually called the diastole, is around 80. And the other side over here is the systole. Okay? This is usually measured around 120. So 0.8 second in one cycle. This is measuring the pressure. Again, this is the highest pressure is around 120. This is normal pressure. And this is the lower pressure, which is the diastole, okay, is around 80. So this is usually measured in this stage. Right? If you see over here, this is closing of the uh, mitral valve, okay, the left side. And this is the closing of the aorta, which is aortic valve. And usually it will give sound when it is closed because it look like a shutting, the door very hard. You're gonna see or gonna hear the sound of lab and dab. So lab sound is actually coming from this closing of this mitral valve, and the dab sound is coming from the closing of the aortic valve. So it's gonna give you that sound lap dap, lap dap, lap dap, lap dap. Okay. And this is the place when you put the stethoscope to hear that sound, the lap dap sound. Right? Now, if we measure the cardiac output, how much blood is actually pumped every minute, eh? So we can measure it with the heart rate and stroke volume. Heart rate, one cycle, remember, one cycle is 0.8 second. Okay. And because we measure it in minute, then what happened? The heart rate, we can change it into minute, which is 60 divided by 0.8. Okay, remember there are 60 seconds per 1 minute. So it's gonna be give us average of 75. So normal heart rate is around 75, okay, beat per minute. The stroke volume every cycle over here, every 80 second over here, is actually give about 70 milliliter of blood pump from the heart. So if you want to know how much blood will be pumped per minute, then you can just multiply this 75 times 70. It will give us 5,250 milliliter. This is the same as 5.20 to 25 liter. It's about maybe 1.5 gallons of blood being pumped every minute. This is every minute. Okay, about 5 liter blood pump every minute. Now, I mentioned before that the brain can also control the heart, but it is only for whether slowing down the heart or make it faster. Example, yeah, remember cranial nerve number 8, number 10, yeah, my name over here, so vagus nerve. This is actually the one that make the heart muscle to be slower, slower than normal. Like for example, maybe when we are sleeping, maybe the heart contraction will be slower. This is innervation from this vagus nerve, which is parasympathetic. Now, when we get angry, okay, or worries or anxiety, etc., what happened with the heart muscle? Is contracted faster. Because what? Because it has innervation from the sympathetic nerve. Sympathetic nerve will increase the heart muscle contraction. And again, just remember the contraction itself is start by itself from the SA node. This is what happened during normal contraction. Okay, so every 0.8, zero point 0.8, cycle. But when we relax a little bit, the parasympathetic stimulation, it will make the contraction become slower, slower. But if we get angry or exercise, the heart contraction will be faster. Okay, less than 0.8 second per cycle. This is the some factor that make our heart being faster or slower. For example, when you are expecting to do exercise, usually your heart muscle will be faster. Because what? Because sympathetic nerve at that time will be kicked off. The same thing when you are trying to sleep, going to the bed, for example, your heart contraction may be slower. Okay, so there are some factor. You can read this table. Okay, you have it in your PowerPoint. Some factor that causing the heart muscle to be slower or maybe faster. And again, this will also causing different cardiac output. For example, if you do exercise, your blood will be pumping more, maybe more than 5 liter. Normally, maybe 5 liter, but when we do exercise or when we get angry, more blood will be circulating. The same thing when we are sleeping, for example, maybe less blood will be pumping, because our heart muscle less contracted. This is the last one. Yeah, this is the actually the development of heart during embryology. So this is human heart. It start from two chamber, three chamber, and finally we have four chambers. Just for your information, lower animal like fish, for example, they only have two chambers of heart. So their blood is actually mixed between the poor blood and the rich blood. The next group of animal, which is higher than fish, is called the amphibian, like frog, salamander. They actually have three chambers of heart. Three chambers of heart. Why? Some amphibian actually able to take oxygen from their skin. Okay, so their blood is being mixed between poor and rich blood, but they can take oxygen from their skin. The reptiles, some of them have three chamber, some of reptile group have four chambers. Bird and mammals like us already have four chambers of heart. It means that our blood is actually not mixed between poor and rich. So there are rich blood that have a lot of oxygens on the left side, and there are poor blood, the one that have less oxygen, more carbon dioxide. It's gonna be on the right side of our body. It has to go to the lungs to be clean to get more oxygen. I hope this help you, okay, with this chapter. And remember, there will be quiz on Thursday over chapter 19, okay, this lecture and previous lecture. So the whole chapter about the heart will be for your quiz on Thursday. Okay, you have a good day and see you tomorrow in lab.